without pay for 4 weeks, and senior executives will see their salaries cut by 1/5. The Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, has rejected bringing in a UK-style wages subsidy scheme in response to the coronavirus crisis, saying it would be slow to build and difficult to pull off. Professor John Spoehr is the Pro-Vice-Chancellor at Flinders University. He's written extensively on unemployment and the socio-economic impact of change and worked with governments in the wake of shutdowns in the car manufacturing sector. He says such a scheme is what Australia needs to keep workers connected to their employers.
Well, one of the great benefits of a wage subsidy scheme is it ensures that workers are still connected to their workplaces, to their employers. So you have a social compact in place, if you like, whereby we are providing a safety net for workers for the next 6 months while we work through this crisis. And at the end of that, if they're engaged with their workplaces, they'll be able to be re-engaged in productive work much more quickly. Of course, this is one of the benefits of a wage subsidy program. It does provide confidence both to the businesses as well as to the employees. So it's fundamentally important as a foundation in the recovery process to keep people attached to work and to ensure that we are able to maintain that workforce intact. It will prove to be a more efficient measure than having up to 1.7 million people unemployed, and that's the risk we face. Double-digit unemployment, up to 1.7 million or more people unemployed if we don't do something like this.
OK. National Cabinet is discussing rent relief this morning. How important is that as part of the social compact you're describing?
Yeah, of course, it's one of the key elements, I think, of this social compact. Mortgage relief, rent relief and income support go together to ensure that people are not experiencing high levels of hardship, that they have the confidence that once we've worked our way through this health crisis, we won't have a massive, protracted economic crisis to work through as well.
There's also this discussion about hibernating businesses, keeping them on ice at this time, whether it be for a couple of months or 6 months, making sure that businesses either their utilities bills, etc., are deferred or cancelled altogether. Do you think those measures are essential in a situation like this?
Yeah, I think they are. This is an unprecedented situation. We've, never really seen anything quite like this. So, going into a state of suspended animation, if you like, makes a lot of sense. So a patient package of support that deals with rent, mortgage and other costs is a sensible thing. Now, if we get the health strategy right, we should come out of this within 3 to 6 months in a shape that enables many of these businesses to function and the workforce to be engaged in productive work. So it's part of a key strategy to ensure that the recovery is much quicker than it otherwise would be.
When you think about what's needed in this circumstance, what do you compare it to in the past?
Well, I've been looking back at, of course, the experience of the Great Depression in the 1930s, and at that time, unemployment rates got up to 30 to 34%. Look, we're not looking at a disaster of that sort of dimension, but we are looking at the highest rates of unemployment since the Great Depression if we don't put in place wage subsidy programs and other measures. So we can prevent this just like we can overcome the COVID crisis, but it's going to require very bold and sustained support from the federal government with allied support from state governments to work our way through this and get us in the best position to be able to take advantage of the recovery period.
Depending on how long this goes on, are there critical junctures that you can see just on the timeline where governments might have to step in to do even more?
I think this is a week-to-week proposition, so it's like we're having a federal budget and state budgets every week. We'll probably continue to see that practice unfold over the next few months because governments are not used to this sort of crisis. They're learning as they're going. They're learning from other governments around the world, and that's very sensible, but they're not used to having to be so bold as they are. And boldness will be their friend in the end. Boldness is the friend of government at the moment. They will come out of this much better if they invest more now than if they do it slowly.
The federal government is arranging commercial charter flights for Australian